Hello again, this is the Craps Coach, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Thanks for joining in as always. Before I get started on this video, I just want to ask you to make sure you subscribe. That way you get alerted to our latest content, and if you like what you're seeing, go ahead and like it. And as always, make sure you leave a comment. A little bit different video today. I'm going to talk about some of the books that, in a sense, I do recommend. Good readings, they end up being like a master's class. These books are what you want to read if you're into craps, and specifically if you're into kind of the higher level of craps, dice influencing, dice control. These books all are a good place to start to learn and to understand. So other than I will put the descriptions and the titles of the books and the descriptions and links to Amazon in the description here. I am an affiliate with Amazon, so I do get something if you want to do the books. But other than that, the authors don't, aren't endorsing me to do any of this. I just simply wanted to talk about some of the books that I read and I study as I'm kind of getting into crap. So the first one is by Frank Sclobetti. It's called Beat the Craps Out of the Casino. There's a title there. This one, it was written in 1991. I'm going to say this about Frank. He's a good author. He writes well. I like his style of writing. There's some other books that are kind of difficult to read. I'm going to talk about those. This was first published in 1991. He's since come out with, you can see a new edition, but essentially he's added some stuff to the book, but the bread and butter of the books, or the main content of the book, remains the same. This is a type of book where the 5 count is probably first mentioned, and if you're a craps aficionado, the captain, he was a prolific craps player in Atlantic City. That's probably the first book where the captain is mentioned, where he's first mentioned. The next book, it's called, again, is by Frank Sclobetti. You're going to see I'm going to actually have lots of his books because they're good reads. It's called The Captain's Craps Revolution. This came out in 1993. Again, it's by Frank. This is more talking about the captain's strategy on how he liked playing in the casinos. It's a good book if you want to start understanding some of the 5 count and the super system, which I did a video on. This is a good book. It's called Get the Edge at Craps. It's by Sharpshooter, whoever that person is. The forward is by Frank Sclobetti. You're starting to see a theme here. All these craps aficionados kind of all band together. It's a good book. It's got a lot of good strategies in there. It looks at dice control and dice influencing, all that. Written in 2002. I will say this, it's kind of a difficult read. He's not the best writer, in my opinion. But it's still a good book if you can get through how kind of jerky the reading is. It just doesn't flow all that well. So about this time, 2002, maybe 2005, this is kind of when the dice control revolution started. There's another book by Frank, came out in 2005. This was probably, I don't know if this is the first edition, but Golden Touch. That whole gang started that whole Golden Touch and controlled shooting, dice control revolution. This is probably the book that teaches or speaks to the mechanics of a controlled throw. I kind of consider it the Bible. A lot of times when I teach a class, I teach kind of the principles from this book. This is kind of the first word. They first mentioned the Dominator. You got Frank Sclobetti and the Dominator. Early on it was the captain. Incidentally, the captain did pass away, I think, in 2010. So, Frank kind of continued on with that little band. This is the whole Golden Touch. I think they're out of, I think they play have seminars somewhere in Memphis. So they play at the riverboat casinos, maybe in Memphis or along the Mississippi River. Here's another book. This is actually a pretty good book too. It's by Stanford Wong, Wong on Dice. Probably the first and only book I've read on him. Again, probably a decent author. I liked how it flowed. It's another book if you're studying controlled throwing. I would recommend reading this one here. This is actually a good book too. And then one of the last books I have, again, it's another Frank Sclobetti book. Imagine that. It's called Cutting Edge Craps. Again, it came out in 2002. That's the year that the captain passed away. You know, this is a book, so when you start like reading the Golden Touch and you start learning things like 7s to roll ratio, controlled shooting, all that sort of stuff, this book is kind of expanding on that. It's kind of like an advanced version. So if this would be the undergraduate level of dice control, i.e. you're learning, this would kind of be the graduate level graduate level. Because now it's starting to look at things as individual as your 7s to roll ratio and how you would bet, knowing, you know, if you've got an advantage over certain numbers, how to take advantage of what those can bring for you. So again, you know, if you're going to study craps, I know there's a lot of other books out there, and some of them, you know, I do have others, but honestly, I probably won't mention them because they're just books. They're just books on how to play craps and teaching some of the basics of craps. You know, in this present modern era, you can learn how to play craps on YouTube, for all sakes. But if you want to kind of drill down and kind of more get a good understanding of what you're trying to do, these are 6 books I would kind of recommend. You know, if YouTube is the high school level, i.e. you can learn something from YouTube, I'm not discounting that at all. I believe you can. That's why I have a channel to pass out information and to teach. However, if you want to start taking your game to the graduate level, the PhD level, I do suggest you do a little bit of research, because you're not going to learn everything on YouTube. But if you actually start to read and understand and look and study some of these books, that would be a great way to kind of up your game to a higher level of play. So, and I can't find the book, but I did do another interview. So if you go back into my videos, I did a book with an author. The book's title was Mr. Z. I'm going to put that one in there too. I'll add a logo into the video here of what the book is, or an image. That's just a nonfiction story. That's just a story. It doesn't really go into what I'm kind of wanting to talk about is information, studying the game of craps, looking at different systems, 5 counting, and, you know, understanding what you're trying to do and accomplish with dice, influencing dice control. Yeah, that was just a nonfiction. It's a great story. It's a great book. I'll put that link in there too. Again, full disclosure, I am affiliated with Amazon, so all these are going to link to Amazon. So if you do purchase, I think Amazon gives me something. But it's more about, for me, it's showing you what I've read. You know, these are all good books. Some Sharpshooter, a little hard to read, but, you know, get through it. Frank Sclobetti is a good author. You know, I think he's kind of the author of the group as far as, you know, the gang, the Golden Touch, all that. It's incidentally, you know, that's not a picture of Frank. That's a picture of the Dominator. I believe that's the Dominator too. But at any rate, yeah. So just kind of give him a read. Mostly Frank Sclobetti. A couple of Stanford Wong. That's a good one, and the Sharpshooter too. So there's my opinion on some of these books for what it's worth. So again. Didn't really teach you craps, but I've taught you some things about how to up your game as far as doing a little bit more advanced studying. So hope you enjoy the content today. As always, we appreciate you joining in. Make sure you subscribe and like. Throw a comment in there if you got some sort of book you know, that I don't know about. Please throw a comment in there. I'll give it a read. I'll see. I'm always looking for more information and to try to be as up on all the craps things and understand the game at the PhD level versus the high school or the undergraduate level as some people do. So thanks for joining in. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.